Talk a little bit more about what we can expect and the potential significance. We're joined live now by Deborah Yedlin, the president of the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. Hi, Ms. Yedlin. It's good to see you. Kind of ironic you're in Ottawa and I'm in Calgary. I wish we were in the same room, but I appreciate you making the time tonight.
Thanks for having me. I hope you're enjoying the snow.
It's cleared right up here. The plane actually landed, okay, so I'm relieved. I wanted to start off and ask you just about the potential significance from your vantage point as someone who's so well connected to industry and the business community here in Calgary, but more broadly across the province. Like, just the fact that this type of announcement is being made, how significant potentially do you think it is?
I think words kind of escape you in the context of how significant this is. We haven't had this kind of collaboration between the province and the federal government for a very, very long time. And I would say, you know, just to add to that, we haven't had the Prime Minister address the business community in Calgary for 10 years. So I think this is a really important signal in terms of what Alberta's position is to the country from an economic standpoint, which obviously what will be contained in the MOU is also important in that context.
Do you believe it's real? I think the skeptics, particularly here where I am right now, are saying, you know, maybe it's just words, maybe it's not that consequential. You know, there's you know, some of this stuff could be a fantasy. Like, do you think what they're saying this could be is actually real?
I think that this is going to set the foundation for conversations that have been long overdue in Alberta regarding the opportunity to increase our energy production and increase the egress off the West Coast. We have not seen significant increases in investment, you know, in major projects, broadly speaking. We know that, because of the regulatory challenges that we've been facing. And so when you want to play out that threat and go back to what the Bank of Canada has been saying, the regulatory challenges have actually compromised our economic growth and productivity. And when you look at an industry that is productive and has capacity to provide that underpinning for strong economic growth, it is the energy sector. And the layers of regulation that have been faced have been very challenging. And so, you know, everybody's been in maintenance mode, but the growth potential remains. And this is something that should unlock that growth potential.
I want to ask about that growth potential, because there are voices in this country who are skeptical of the idea that a business case for additional pipeline export capacity out to the West Coast exists. And they say that, you know, evidence of that is the fact that you don't hear companies, energy companies, clamoring at this moment to say, oh, that's something we're going to back. We're going to be a proponent of that. I take your point, and many others have made it as well, that it's about, you know, it could be because of the regulatory burden or because of regulation more largely. Do you think if this MOU removes those things, that the business case will exist? Like, do you expect there to be companies coming forward?
Well, I think you have to sort of back up a step. What we need to see is certainty for the energy sector to increase production to fill a pipe. And that includes potentially increasing production to fill what Enbridge wants to do south, and also what Trans Mountain has the potential to do in terms of increasing throughput. So what we've not had is the certainty for companies to increase production. And that's why a pipeline proponent has not come forward. You need to have the barrels to put in the pipe to make it economic. And so you have two pieces that have to come together. And you have two pieces where you're talking billions of dollars of risk capital that is being made to stretch over decades. And that certainty from an investment standpoint has been lacking in Canada, broadly speaking, I would argue, for a very long time. And so this is actually an interesting way to look at it. Is this could really kick off some very important economic opportunities across the country, because this is really an infrastructure conversation, and see how we now look at committing to increasing our economic growth, starting with energy.
What needs to be what needs to be part of the MOU to create that certainty in your view?
Well, let's start with making sure, you know, the elimination of the production cap was, or the emissions cap, which is really a production cap, was in the budget. That's the first thing. Obviously, Alberta and the clean electricity regulations is a challenge. We need to get some clarity on carbon pricing. That's been apparently a sticking point. And we need to make sure that we can continue to go to investors and say, and shareholders and say, you know, this makes sense for us to invest for the long term and generate a rate of return for ourselves and for shareholders and for the country.
And if those boxes are checked on Thursday at that announcement that, of course, you're hosting, do you think it will be enough for those companies to become proponents of a pipeline?
Well, I think one more thing that has to fall into place is, of course, the Pathways project to capture carbon, and I think that's something else that is in the mix. From what we understand, with some issues still to be worked out. But I think, when you put it in that context and you have certainty from a risk capital perspective, from a regulatory perspective, and then you have the carbon opportunities, the carbon capture opportunities that Pathways represent, from a consortium of energy companies coming together, and I think that's something people don't pay attention to. Nobody on the planet has come together, competitors, to risk the capital that the Pathways Group is prepared to risk. So all those pieces fit together, and we have a very different conversation in this country in terms of energy development.
Okay, well, we look forward to the conversation Thursday at the Chamber. Thanks so much, Mr. Yedlin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.